All right. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me. I love getting out and about. Dom gets to travel all the time. They only wheel me out every now and then. So this is a privilege for me to be here. Um, as it says on screen, I am here to chat to you about discoverability and social media, essentially getting found. And there will be pretty pictures in here, but it is also going to get a little bit nerdy. So I apologize in advance. Um, Before I get into it, just in case there's anyone in the room who's a little bit less familiar with Tourism Australia and what our kind of role is and who we are the government body agency responsible for attracting international visitors to Australia. So, in essence, our job is to inspire people to want to come here, get them to spread out and disperse once they are here, get them to spend their money while they're here, and do so to help enable and foster a sustainable tourism industry. And we do that through sort of our three core functions. So creating demand, which is the bulk of what sort of I'll show you today. It's the bulk of what we do is sort of in marketing at Tourism Australia. Converting that demand, we've got teams that work with sort of major partners across our key markets to actually turn that demand into bookings. And then very importantly, and part of why I'm here today, is to support the industry. Um, I thought I would just start by, in case any of you have not seen it, just by playing, it's not social media related, but setting the context. So everything that I do across our sort of social and content channels ultimately ladders up to sort of our overarching marketing activity. And this is just one of the many executions of our current campaign, Come and Say Good Day, that's in market in the US. And I don't actually know if it's going to play if I hit it. If it doesn't, I might need your help back there.
Bet they'll miss Australia.
What do you reckon they'll tell their mates back home?
Oh, that's easy. I reckon it would start with...
Guys, you are never gonna believe what happened in Australia.
Oh, this is gonna be a good one. G'day, mate. Hop in.
Robert Irwin.
Sure.
I swear, it's another world down under. I mean, the sea, the sand, the shrimp.
Mate, we call them prawns.
Oh, and honestly, the best part was me and my best mate Robert. Mr. Irwin. Like this one time, we're flying through the air. I mean, Robert's kind of nervous, but I am cool as a cucumber.
I'm not buying it.
Oh, really?
Oh! Wow.
That is...
Amazing movie.
Everyone leaves Australia with a good tale.
Yeah, this place has a way of staying with you. It always has.
So what are you waiting for? Come and say good day.
Oh, it deserves it, right? So that's a piece of sort of the big shiny advertising activity that sort of sits at the top of what we do across marketing. But today I'm going to chat to you about kind of the bulk of the content, the evergreen. My team and I put out anywhere from sort of 20 to 35 individual pieces of content each week across our channels, just in social alone. And the way that that is all happening is changing rapidly. I'm going to talk to you a lot about kind of what we're doing, and then hopefully sort of you can have some takeaways that'll help guide what you're doing or also how you work with us. To start with a caveat, and this slide is not going to play the videos. Oh, look, it's playing some of them. That's amazing. Anyway, just to start with a caveat, look, I am extremely proud of what my team and I have been able to achieve over the last few years on our channels. We hit a personal and team milestone last year of surpassing 20 million followers across all our global channels, which is something I've been chasing for a few years now. And also in a world where organic performance is rapidly declining across the board, we've managed to hold on to year-on-year growth for the last few years, which is a pretty significant accomplishment. But the reality is it's not easy to do that. Getting sort of seen, getting cut through on social is getting harder and harder. And, we are up against more content, more channels produced by more creators, more brands than ever before. And it is in part due to AI, in part. This is the reality that we're now all in. Social media, search, and AI sort of are converging to play this really dominant role in the traveler journey. Over half of US travelers now use AI tools. It can be more than that, depending on what report you read, but at least half are now using AI tools like ChatGPT in their travel planning. And in terms of sort of self-declared heavy usage, that has more than doubled in the past year. For a long time, we were all talking about AI as this sort of future thing that we all had to be ready for, but it is very much here. This presentation is not going to all be about AI, I promise. I will allude to it and touch on it. And I think really importantly, no one in this room, myself included, needs to be an expert in AI. The stuff that I'm going to talk about today requires some degree of AI literacy, but it does not in any way require AI mastery. And step one, let's skip that slide. It's step one in kind of that literacy is simply understanding that we have two audiences now. Humans are still at the heart of what we do in marketing, of what we do in social. We build platforms, we create content to inspire and influence humans. But we also need to make sure that that content and those platforms are readable and sort of influencing the machines that largely control what people see now. These two audiences will come into play sort of throughout what I'm going to talk about today. Really importantly, at TA, we do not treat social, so my team does not sort of sit in a silo separate from our other activities. We very much play a central role in delivering our digital strategy, so making sure that our content is discoverable, can be found. In our earned strategy, we work very closely with our PR and advocacy teams to make sure that our content shifts perception, and influences people. And then very importantly, our content needs to be unmissably Australian. If people do not know what country we are talking about, we are not going to change anyone's mind and convince anyone to come here. So with that context in mind, I'm going to run through our three major focus areas coming into the new financial year, and sort of what we are doing about them, and hopefully a few takeaways for you guys as well. The first is how we are navigating the new social algorithms, the machine side, how we are optimizing what we're doing to fit with social search, so more sort of human behavior, and how we're finding sort of smart ways to connect to our audience through culture. I had to put that picture in there. The algorithm. So I'm a bit of a nerd, so this is actually my favorite section, but we will build to the culture bit. So anyone who has ever worked in social or works in social has had this sort of love-hate relationship with the algorithm for probably quite some time. And like most things on the internet at the moment, the algorithms, the way platforms are distributing content is fundamentally changing. We did a bit of a AI analysis of sort of the Meta, Facebook, Instagram newsroom, and they have announced over 33 major changes to the way their platform works in the past 12 months. So if you work in social media or you're stressed out by social media, you're not alone. It is changing quickly. This all sort of started back in 2022. That is when time spent on platform for individual social channels hit its peak. And it has been declining pretty quickly ever since. So a lot of factors at play here. There are simply more channels for social, more channels to stream content. It was also the end of COVID, so people put their phones down and just went outside and hopefully did some of all these amazing experiences that you guys offer. But whatever it is, you can imagine that it sort of has led to a little bit of stress amongst the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world. In response to this, platforms like Meta, TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, all of them pretty much, have started making significant investments, sort of evidenced by some of these quotes I've pulled out, with that single-minded objective of getting more users into their feeds and keeping them there for as long as humanly possible. So this is that machine's audience, that this new focus, coupled with advancements in AI, has led to this fundamental shift in how the algorithms surface content to users. Platforms don't want to rely anymore on the fact that you chose to follow Dom a few years ago, and Dom is going to create content that you want to see and will spend a lot of time with on a regular basis. Instead, forget Dom. The algorithm is going to try and figure out what do you actually watch? What keeps you in platform? What do you share with your friends? What do you save to come back and look at later? And based on that, it's going to determine what you are interested in. We've shifted from this sort of social graph, the foundation of when these sort of platforms came to be, to what we're all sort of calling now an interest graph. And that has led to what I am calling, in my dorky fashion, this era of algorithmic mediocrity. Or nope, meritocracy, not mediocrity, quite the opposite. It's a, sort of put simply, it no longer matters who you know, it only matters what you make. So The simple breakdown of what's changed is that your reach used to be determined by how many followers you had. Now it is determined by what we call kind of content signals. All that is sort of the key metrics that the platforms are using to determine whether you are interested and whether you're going to stick around. So the top three are watch time. How long is someone watching your content? Shares. Are you sending it to someone to bring them into the platform? And saves. Is this something that's actually making you so interested you're going to come back and look at it again? The content as a user that you see used to be from the people you follow. And I'm sure all of you have experienced, if you are sort of users of social, that now it comes from anyone, anywhere. And the algorithm that sort of a lot of us in this social world felt like we'd learned to hack is completely unpredictable now. And I'm going to get to the fact that this is actually not a bad thing, I promise. It sounds overwhelming. But 90%, and this is not on an individual basis, but collectively, people are reporting that about 90% of views come from audiences that do not follow you anymore. And that's huge, considering it's a wild statistic, considering where sort of all these social channels began. And excitingly, actually, as a user, you can now have an influence in what you see. You can choose what sort of your algorithm looks like. And if not all of you will have access to this yet, but if you want to pull out your phones, you can do this after, you can do it now, and open up either the Reels tab or the Search tab. You'll have this little toggle up in the top with 2 little hearts on it. If you click that, you'll be able to have a look at what your algorithm is serving you right now, and you can add and remove from it as well. This is not my algorithm. That was way too personal. I was not going to do that. I forced someone on my team to screen grab their algorithm. So this is Taylor. Taylor is really into Taylor Swift at the moment. Wedding planning, although she is not yet engaged, so something might be coming. She just went to Europe recently. She's into beaches, the World Cup. So if you want to reach Taylor, you can talk about Taylor Swift, really relevant at the moment with her big wedding just a little while ago. You could talk about FIFA World Cup, or you could start to show her some of the best beaches across Australia. Importantly, actually, I'll emphasize on this slide, you don't need to do all 3 of those things. It's very important to stick with what makes sense in that Venn diagram of what your audience cares about, so what Taylor cares about, and what makes sense for your business, your brand, your product. What sits in the middle there is where you can focus. You do not need to talk about everything. Bit of left field, this one. Look, this may sound really overwhelming. It's a lot of change. And, this idea that your content has to be absolutely incredible to get any sort of view can be quite a lot. But it's actually a great opportunity for a smaller business or someone who doesn't have a huge number of followers. There is no reason why an account with a few thousand, a few hundred followers can't reach 2 million people in Singapore tomorrow, just as well as the Tourism Australia account can with its 6 million followers. And this is my favorite example of that at the moment. This is Kumar. Kumar launched this account 3 weeks ago. This is an outdated screen grab. He now has 1.4 million followers. But this was the video. I'm just going to play it for you. This is the video that he started with. This video has nearly 40 million views now. And it's the very first thing he posted with 0 followers. Oh, I might have to have you click that.
This is a message to all finance bros. My name is Kumar. I'm a retired accountant. And I'm going to steal your jobs by becoming the biggest accounting influencer in the world.
My husband wants to be famous, so please follow him.
Doesn't take a lot, right? It's funny, there's a tension, it's well edited, it's dramatic, and then it ends on this humorous note. That video has gone nuts. People have even created templates so that you can make your own version of that video. We have not done it yet. You got to be relevant, right? You can't just jump on every trend. So what does this mean for you in relation to kind of what we're doing? First of all, don't worry too much about your followers. I know I said we reached 20 million. I'm still really pumped about that. Unfortunately, we did it right at the moment that it no longer means very much. Pinpoint your audience. Try and have a think about what it is that your audience really, really cares about in relation to what you can actually offer them. And then be consistent, be unique with your positioning in that space, and be consistent. If you post something like Kumar did and it goes nuts, do it again and again and again, stick with what you're sort of know is working and what is engaging your audience, and do sort of small tweaks to it as opposed to trying to reinvent the wheel every single time you post. And then measure what matters. Again, don't pay attention to what's driving followers. Pay attention to how long people are watching, whether they're sharing, whether they're saving. Those are the metrics that are actually going to help you get growth over time. All right, shifting dials. Our second focus is more on that kind of behavioral side. So how humans are changing the way that they actually behave on these platforms. Look, this headline is a bit dramatic. It's not, lots of people still doom scroll. I definitely still doom scroll. But there's strong evidence that shows that social platforms are being used more and more for search. It's a behavior that used to sort of be a lot more Gen Z, and it now very much spans demographics. People are coming into social channels looking for something. They're there with intent, and a solid number, 67% on TikTok at least, are searching for travel. So social search doesn't replace traditional search, it complements it. Traditional search is more about utility. I know what I want, find it for me. Whereas social search has that layer of influence. So it's more, I'm curious, show me what's trusted. And it's very much visual first, and trust comes from sort of pure validation, or in a lot of cases, brands or creator credibility. And the platforms are really engineering towards this behavior. So captions, in terms of your copy, on-screen text, spoken words, they are all indexed by AI and sort of scraped much like a website would be to help surface content for people who are searching for things. Location tags are so important. Make sure that you're tagging your location every time you post. TikTok, for example, is trialing a sort of I think it's called a local tab in the US at the moment, where people can actually click a separate tab and they will only be surfaced content that is in the location that they are in. Huge for when people are actually on ground and want to find an experience near them. So it's very important to make sure people know where you are. And the descriptive metadata, one thing we do in all of our content, and we do it for this reason, but also for accessibility, is we do sort of a post ID. So we do our creative copy, and then we explain what's happening in sort of a bit of a sub caption. That really helps us get extra keywords in there to help sort of optimize what we're doing for search. And it also means that specificity can be a winning strategy. So you don't necessarily need to get the 40 million views that Kumar got. I don't know what Kumar's doing. He hasn't quite gotten there yet. I think I looked at, he's got 9 posts now, and he hasn't quite made any sense yet. So don't worry about him. You don't necessarily need to go that wide, right? If you're reaching the right 2, 3, 4,000 people who are actually looking for you, then there's a solid chance that you're actually going to kind of convert them into booking and get them to come and join your experience, much more so than, one of the 4 million. So answering specific questions, taking the time to figure out what people are looking for, what people are asking, and reacting to that can be a really smart way to leverage social channels. So what are we doing at the moment? A few things. This is a long game for us. There's a lot of changes happening within the platforms that are relatively new. TikTok, once again, they just released a section when you're creating a post where you can plug in keywords, much like you would when you say upload a YouTube video. But we are starting with insights. There's a few different sort of tools that we pull from. We look at Google Search Insights. TikTok has a sort of separate stream or app as well you can download called Creator Search Insights that'll show you what's trending, what people are searching for, what creators are talking about. So whatever source you pull from, try and have a look at what people actually are looking for and help that kind of inform the content you create. Think about keywords when you are writing your captions, creating audio, anything like that in your content. We are very much doing that. We're making sure that we write everything using natural language, speak the way people would speak. You don't need to be flowery and sort of, if there's a temptation, I think, to go a little over the top sometimes when you're crafting a social caption, don't do it. Make sure that you've got sort of that conversational tone, and that will really help ensure you're using the right language. And then finally, we're also doing some testing. TikTok has search ads, not quite available yet within other platforms. We don't obviously sort of directly convert as Tourism Australia, but we've been testing them more from sort of a click through to website and time spent on site sort of perspective, and it's actually performing really well. So it's a good validation of the fact that we're capturing people who are actually looking for that additional information and are going to take the time to learn more about what we're offering. So a bit of a repeat, but just to sort of hammer it in, what does this mean for you? Get pointy, get specific, talk about the nuance of what you have to offer, and make sure that's sort of informed by what people are looking for. You can even look at, to be honest, TripAdvisor, Reddit, whatever forum it is where your sort of experience might be talked about, or experiences like yours. You can pull from multiple sources, doesn't have to be within platform. Right for search, like I said, natural language, and always, always, always tag your location. All right. Finally, connecting to culture. So this is probably the most fun section, but I'm going to chat a little bit about how we leverage culture across our channels. Look, as we've been talking about, we exist in an era now where there's more content on more channels than ever before. So it's very hard to get cut through. And one of the really good ways that brands do that is by earning attention through connecting with things that their audience truly cares about. So what they care about, what they talk about, what they participate in. And there's no shortage of examples or evidence that culture influences travel choices. We all watched, I don't know if all of you watched all 3 seasons, but I certainly did, of The White Lotus. We watched as the 4 seasons sold out in Hawaii, Italy, and Thailand, and all sort of spent a lot of time begging them to come here next, still working on it. And right now, K-beauty, in this sort of umbrella of wellness, which is such a huge thing at the moment culturally in so many markets, K-beauty is attracting waves of tourists into Korea who are coming back looking suspiciously 10 years younger. Really importantly, this is not about trend jacking. This is actually from a TikTok deck. I did steal this and recreate it, but the opportunity for brands doesn't really exist at this sort of bottom portion here. For those of you who got sucked into the World Cup, Norway had such a moment. Everyone was posting videos of Viking Rose. Everyone is posting, trying to get Erling Haaland to comment nice on their post. I've seen so many of those. But that was a big spike, and it's pretty much dead now. Certain brands get a lot of leverage off of that. They're built with giant teams who pay attention to everything that's happening and have a production arm that can quickly turn something around that's going to tap into what's happening in culture. Most of us are not set up that way, ourselves included. On sort of the bigger end of things, if you think about these, what we call kind of trend signals, point of view video, travel videos, follow me as I come here, get ready with me videos in the beauty space. These are things that started out as social trends, but have become kind of part of internet language. These are ways of editing content that sort of live in this middle space. And then trend forces, things like wellness, the wellness category having its moment, or set jetting like White Lotus. These are forces that have actually shifted. Have some water. Thank you. These are forces that are actually shifting human behavior. Recovering from a bit of a cold, apologies. And these are where the opportunity sits for brands. So look, these are the 3 main ways that Tourism Australia taps into culture. The first is that we work with talent or content creators who help kind of connect us in with subcultures or portions of our audience that we struggle to reach. We have sort of great exposure on social media. We get a lot of sort of views, a lot of engagement, but inevitably there are going to be people who are better placed to influence certain individuals than we are as the official Tourism Australia account. This is just one example of a content creator out of New York called Jack's Dining Room, arguably one of the biggest and most influential food creators probably that there is. We got him down here earlier this year, and he ended up massively over-delivering and creating content in which he called one spot, which I won't name necessarily, but the best sandwich he'd ever had. That is huge, coming from that voice into that audience, and something that we couldn't possibly do on our own. The other is popular culture. Once again, relevant popular culture. David Attenborough's 100th birthday a little while ago, we happened to have a quote from a documentary series that he did where he talks about tropical North Queensland as his favorite place in the world. All we did was post beautiful. We couldn't use his image. We couldn't use his direct quote in sort of audio. All we did was post some beautiful content of tropical North Queensland and associate it with his birthday, and it went absolutely gangbusters. When there is a moment that is happening that directly relates and allows us to enter that moment with something sort of meaningful and useful, it tends to perform really well. And then finally, major events. There are moments, and lots of them coming up with sort of our decade of green and gold, where all the world's eyes are on Australia. We really tap into those moments to make sure that we are showing what Australia has to offer outside of just that, say, sporting event when those things are on. So I thought rather than sort of yap on about this, I would just show a couple examples of things that we've done recently that sort of play into this space of culture. So this is probably a bit of a bigger scale piece, although it was turned around very rapidly. But we had a bit of an opportunity around the Ashes to do something with Stuart Broad, a former English cricketer. Please don't make me talk too much about cricket because I'm not quipped, as you can tell from my accent. But someone more creative than me sort of knew that these two are quite public rivals. And we were able to sort of tap into that rivalry and create a suite of sort of travel content that sort of teased the fact that these two were at the same time both commentating for other sides of sort of the series, and got, I think in the end, over 5 million views across this suite of content. Again, I think you might need to press the button on these, but we'll have it do a quick play.
Wouldn't it be nice if we were older then we would have to wait so long? And wouldn't it be nice to live together in the kind of room where we belong? No one's gonna make it that much better when we can say goodnight, stay together.
Just play the other one.
Sit or goes where the day grows only time, and who can say
So for both of these, we had quick turnaround, not a huge amount of time. We'd sold them in on the general concept that we wanted to make fun of the fact that they were rivals. And so we played into that kind of trend graph that I showed you before and looked for sort of formats or sort of ideas that were kind of popular in social at the moment. One of which was kind of this bromance scene. The other was a bunch of guys on boys' holidays having to show their wives back home they were having a terrible time. And we leaned in and used this sort of famous duo to recreate some of those trending pieces of content to huge success. The second, much more lo-fi, when we launched our Come and Say Good Day campaign in the US, we found out soon before that Robert Irwin was going to be appearing on Dancing with the Stars around the same time we were planning to launch. So no brainer, we shifted our launch to align with the premiere of that show. We knew that his star would be on the rise, and we wanted to capitalize on that as much as humanly possible. Unfortunately, by the time we learned that, we already had a suite of deliverables with Robert, and we couldn't do more. So we couldn't use his image in sort of a bunch of new ways, even though we desperately wanted to leverage the fact that this was happening on our social channels as well. So instead, we sort of did a slew of content, which I'll play 2 examples here, where we sort of rode his coattails all the way to the final. So we started with some sort of lo-fi animal content, to some of the trending sounds from his performances. We then enlisted, our office is in Sydney, so we couldn't go very far, but we enlisted some locals and travelers sort of right outside our office to wish him good luck in response to the fact that we'd gotten him to comment. And then when we knew he was going to win, we had pre-filmed some content in our MD's office using the lovely Ruby the kangaroo to help celebrate. So you can play those as well.
How are you good at everything? Like, seriously, everything.
What's a good dance move to show Robert?
Oh, wait, lean it. Oh,
Good luck. You got this. What do you reckon to the bullet?
Look, yeah. I love you, Robert. Good job, Robert. Go Aussie. You got this, Robert. Keep at it. We love you, and thank you for representing Australia.
Yeah,
We've
keep
done
dancing.
great. Keep dancing. Keep dancing, King.
Good luck, Robert. Rooting for you to win the mirror ball. I watched one of your dances right before I came here. You're amazing, and you're getting better with every single dance. Beautiful work.
Australia's behind you, and keep us good work. Thanks, Robert.
Cool.
What was really great about that one, which we only put out on TikTok, a little bit more lo-fi, is that so many people got behind that in the comments, and we're so pumped to see that all of Australia was getting behind their guy. This one went across more channels, and we had quite a lot of fun filming it. And no, that's not me.
Winners and new champions. Robert
I wish I could claim it was me because of these dance moves.
So attached, I want you so much that I just can't resist you. Hard enough to say that I'll miss you.
So we're a small team. We happen to have a party store really close to our office. When stuff like this happens, it is quite a scrappy, nimble kind of pull together last minute, but it can have a really big impact if you pick the right moment to get involved.
winners
Well-
and new.
So what does this mean for you? I think, look, just back to kind of a point I made earlier, understand your audience. I think, the temptation is always there to jump on every single trend, but make sure when sort of a moment happens, when you're thinking about cultural moments to get involved in, you always put that audience filter against it. Be choiceful. Don't pick everything. Just pick those things that are relevant. Content creators, I didn't delve into that too much, but content creators, look, think of them as content partnerships. These are essentially sort of a third-party channel that can help you reach and influence new segments of your audience in a way that possibly you cannot, or with an authority that you might not have. And then tell us about your events. I talk about major events, but events are actually a really big sort of thing for us on our channels. I think that the sort of vibe and activity that happens around any form of event, whether it's a food festival, a sporting event, anything like that, makes for really great content and gets a lot of cut through, and it helps show just sort of what Australia is all about and some of that Aussie personality. So look, that was a lot. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but I've just whittled it down to sort of 3 takeaways, and, apologies if it's a little bit repetitive, but, I guess takeaway number 1, followers don't matter, sadly. It does not matter who you know, it only matters what you make. Pay attention to your individual post, measure the right, look at the right metrics when you're deciding what's worked and hasn't worked, and even if you're not reaching millions and millions of people, take a look at the few that you are and how they're behaving, and then continue sort of iterating from there. Your audience is likely already searching for you. Find out what they're searching for and make sure that they're finding you. It can take some little tiny optimizations to what you're already doing to make sure that you're showing up in those sort of search results in these platforms. And then finally, participating in culture in a meaningful and relevant way can really help shift perceptions and drive influence that sometimes destination content or experience content alone cannot do. Thank you.